Here's what nobody anticipated. 6 months ago, Washington was preparing for a significant conflict with New Delhi. Trade wars were being planned, severe sanctions were under consideration. The discourse coming from Trump's team was tough and unequivocal. India had to choose America's side or be left behind. It appeared a showdown was imminent. But look at what is transpiring now. The same individuals who were planning to penalize India are suddenly discussing collaboration. Large commercial agreements are being negotiated. And after months of having no top diplomat in India, Washington just hurried to dispatch an important person to New Delhi. These are not minor adjustments. This is a complete reversal in strategy. So what caused this to happen? What compelled America's leaders to abandon their rigid approach and attempt friendship instead? Here's the fascinating part. India didn't change a thing. New Delhi is still purchasing inexpensive energy from Russia, still impeding American goods with high duties, still engaging with all sides instead of joining any single team. India's game plan remained precisely the same. The change originated from Washington, not New Delhi. And when the world's most powerful nation changes course this quickly, it's not because they suddenly became kind. It's because they recognized their initial plan was failing miserably, and that failure was creating larger problems than they had foreseen. This is what we're delving into today. Why America had a change of heart first. Why India possesses more influence than people believe. And why this shift could alter how the entire world operates. Let's return to how this commenced. When Trump returned to power, everyone knew what was coming. America First was back in full force. For countries like India, that meant one thing: do what we command or suffer the consequences. And the consequences started coming right away. New tariffs on Indian goods shipped to America. We're talking 25% extra costs on steel, textiles, and chemicals for Indian companies. This was devastating. Profits were eliminated overnight. Workers were losing their jobs. Entire industries suddenly could not compete in America's market anymore. But that was just the beginning. Then came the real assault, targeting India's oil deals. Another 25% tax on Russian oil that India was purchasing. This was no longer just about money, this was about fundamental survival. India has to buy most of its oil from other countries. Russian oil selling cheaply because of the war was keeping fuel prices low for over 1 billion people. Sever that supply and everything becomes costly fast. Trump's reasoning was straightforward. Stop buying Russian oil. Stop assisting Moscow in making money. Join our side in this conflict. But for India, this felt like being told to harm their own population for someone else's war. Why should regular Indians pay more for fuel just to satisfy Washington? And here's where things got really complicated. While America was threatening India, they didn't even have anyone important there to communicate with. No ambassador for months, no senior diplomat to explain what was happening or attempt to resolve things. Consider that. You are starting a trade war with one of the largest countries in the world, but you will not even station someone there to manage the relationship. While America was inactive, other countries acted quickly. China sent their top officials to New Delhi for important meetings. Russia continued to make energy agreements with India. Significant regional summits were planned with India seated next to China and Russia, not America. While Washington was absent, everyone else was present and engaged. The true error wasn't the taxes or the threats. The true error was thinking India would just capitulate. That economic pressure would make them do what America desired. That New Delhi had no choice but to submit to Washington's will. But that assumption was completely wrong. Then everything changed. Not gradually, but almost overnight. The harsh talk from Washington became softer. The threats turned into offers to negotiate. The demands became requests for collaboration. What happened? Several things converged at once. First, Trump met with Putin in Alaska, a shocking summit that surprised America's allies in Europe and sent ripples throughout Washington's foreign policy world. But here's the key. After that meeting, America seemed to ease up on India as if they realized they couldn't fight everyone at the same time. Second, and this was crucial, India didn't break. After months of economic pressure, New Delhi stood firm, still buying Russian oil, still protecting their own companies, still refusing to choose sides. And they weren't quiet about it. They were vocal and self-assured. This sent a clear message to Washington. India was not going to be intimidated. Third, other powers began to make moves. China's foreign minister visited New Delhi for major discussions. Russia announced new energy partnerships with India. Regional meetings were being planned where India would be seated with China and Russia, leaving America out. Every day America remained absent was a day their competitors gained ground. The language from Washington started to change. No more angry talk about India's unfair trade practices. Instead, words about working together and finding solutions. That's government jargon for "we need a new approach because this one isn't working." Then came the biggest sign, rushing to appoint an ambassador to India, and not just anyone. Sergio Gore, one of Trump's closest advisors, someone with direct access to the president. That's not routine diplomacy, that's crisis management. Why the sudden change? Because staying rigid was becoming perilous. Every day without proper representation in New Delhi was a day China and Russia grew stronger there. Every harsh statement pushed India further away. And in today's world, losing India doesn't just mean losing one relationship. It means losing your entire strategy to counterbalance China. Look at the map. America's plan to contain China needs partners all across Asia. Japan and Australia are committed, but they are far from where the action is. India sits right in the center of the Indian Ocean, controlling the sea lanes that carry half the world's trade. Without India, the whole plan collapses. Washington finally understood what should have been evident from the start. You can't contend with China without India on your side, and you can't get India on your side by threatening them. Here's what makes this story truly captivating. India possesses far more influence in this game than most people comprehend. And right now, that influence is at its zenith. Consider it. Washington is altering its approach, not because it desires to, but because it is obligated to. China is growing stronger every day. Russia refuses to back down. Europe is divided and preoccupied, and positioned in the middle of all this turmoil is India. The world's fastest-growing major economy, the most populated country, and a democracy that can communicate with everyone without being controlled by anyone. That's genuine leverage. Let's break down why India holds so many advantages right now. First, its geography. India is situated at the center of the Indian Ocean, where the most vital trade routes in the world pass through. If you wish to move goods between Asia, Europe, and Africa, you transit through waters near India. That provides New Delhi with immense strategic value that cannot be substituted. Second, its markets. American companies are desperate to find new consumers beyond their own saturated markets. Where do they want to go? India, with its growing middle class that could reach 500 million people in just a few years. Tech companies, retailers, defense contractors, everyone wants entry to India's market. Third, energy. India is one of the world's biggest energy purchasers. Right now, they're buying cheap Russian oil, but they could just as easily buy American oil and gas. That's a bargaining chip worth hundreds of billions of dollars. Fourth, its military position. America's entire strategy to contain China relies on having strong partners across Asia. Without India, that strategy does not work. India's navy controls the Indian Ocean. India's military can apply pressure on China from the south, while America applies pressure from the east. Without that cooperation, China has a much easier path to dominance. Fifth, its diplomatic reach. India is the only major power that can sit with America, Japan, and Australia in one meeting, then turn around and meet with China and Russia in another. No other country has that range. That makes India a bridge between different worlds. And in a fragmented world, bridges are incredibly valuable. So what does this signify in practical terms? It means India shouldn't perceive Trump's kinder tone as a favor. It's not charity. It's an acknowledgement that India is too important to lose. This is the moment for New Delhi to push for real benefits. lower duties on Indian goods, better technology sharing agreements, more American investment, a partnership where India's independence is respected. But here's where it gets truly fascinating. India isn't just sitting back and waiting for America to make offers. They are actively using this moment to fortify their position even more. India just announced major agreements with multiple countries at once, infrastructure projects with Japan, energy partnerships with the Middle East, technology agreements with Europe. These moves demonstrate that India has options and is not solely dependent on a single partner. It's a classic chess move, leveraging one's position to gain even greater advantage. By diversifying its partnerships, India is signaling to Washington that its friendship is not a given, but something that must be earned. The message is clear. You want us on your side, then you need to come to the table with a better offer than your competitors. This is a new level of confidence for a country that was once considered a junior player. India is no longer asking for a seat at the table. It's building its own table and inviting others to join. This shift in global dynamics is profound, and it shows that power isn't just about military might or economic size. It's also about leverage, strategic positioning, and a clear understanding of your own value. India has mastered this lesson, and the world is taking notice. They're diversifying their alliances while America is attempting to win them back. The timing is not a coincidence. Every deal India publicizes sends a message to Washington. We possess alternatives, so if you desire our partnership, you had better make it worthwhile. Consider defense. For years, America tried to sell India weaponry while withholding its finest technology. Now India is stating, if you want us to acquire your weapons instead of Russian ones, we require a complete technology transfer. That's a negotiation, not a capitulation, and that is what is driving this change in Washington's strategy. Because here's the reality that Washington is finally grasping. America needs India just as much, perhaps more, than India needs America. And for the first time in decades, Washington is demonstrating that they know it. Let's discuss some figures. India is currently the world's fifth largest economy, expanding more rapidly than any other major nation. By 2027, it is projected to be the third largest, surpassing Japan and Germany. Economic size translates into political sway. But here's what truly got America's attention. India's growth is no longer reliant on America. 20 years ago, cutting off trade would have severely harmed India. Today, India has so many other collaborators that losing America would be painful but not ruinous. China is India's largest trading partner. Europe purchases enormous quantities of Indian goods. The Middle East supplies energy. India has built a network that does not revolve around America. In the meantime, American corporations are desperate to gain access to India's market. Apple, Google, Amazon, Walmart, they are all investing heavily in India's growth. When these companies advocate for improved relations, that rapidly alters Washington's political calculations. Here's something of importance. India observed how China handled American pressure and acquired crucial lessons. When America pressured China with trade wars, China did not retreat. They absorbed the blows, diversified, and continued to grow. Eventually, America was forced to collaborate with China because pressure was not working. India employed the same method: absorb pressure, build alternatives, and make yourself too important to be isolated. But India had advantages. It is a democracy with cultural connections to the West, and it is not trying to displace America globally, just demanding equitable treatment. America's plan to contain China relies on strong military allies across Asia. India is essential to that plan. China is expanding its navy and constructing bases across the South China Sea and Indian Ocean. America needs local partners to counteract this. Japan assists in the north, Australia in the south, but India controls the central Indian Ocean, where vital trade routes pass. When Trump's team was pressuring India on trade, they overlooked this military reality. But when China expanded its naval presence and India discussed deeper cooperation with Russia, Pentagon alarm bells rang. Military strategists told the White House, "We need India more than we need to win trade disputes." That changed everything. Military concerns outweigh economic ones in Washington. So where does this leave us? Let's be clear about what is genuinely happening here. This isn't just about Trump being more pleasant to India. This is about America acknowledging that the old strategy of pressuring, threatening, and demanding obedience no longer works with India. India has reached a point where it can refuse, where it can endure pressure and continue to pursue its own path, where it has enough alternatives that no single country can force it into line. That's a fundamental shift in global power dynamics. For America, this means learning to treat India as an equal collaborator, not a junior ally. No more ultimatums. No more, "You're either with us or against us." Instead, it is about finding areas where both countries benefit, while accepting that they will not concur on everything. For India, this is a vindication of their approach. Multi-alignment is effective. Playing all sides while serving your own interests is effective. Refusing to be anyone's junior partner is effective. The pressure from Washington didn't break India. It made India more resilient and self-assured. But let's not mistake this for a lasting peace. Trump's gentler tone is a tactical maneuver, not an emotional one. If India pushes too hard or gets too close to China and Russia, the pressure will return. And if America finds other ways to contain China without India, their strategy could change again. The key for India is to use this moment wisely, secure long-term advantages while the opportunity is available, obtain superior trade agreements, guarantee technology transfers, build economic partnerships that outlast political changes, transform America's current need for India into permanent benefits. But here's what makes this moment particularly significant. This isn't just about dealing with America. This is about establishing India as a true global power, one that is consulted, not commanded. Consider what this means for other countries observing. If India can withstand American pressure and compel Washington to alter its approach, that sends a message. You don't have to accept whatever America offers. You can bargain for better terms if you are strong enough. Other countries are taking notes. Brazil is watching. Indonesia is watching. Turkey is watching. They are witnessing that India's approach works, and they are starting to adopt similar strategies that could alter how international relations function. Instead of a world divided into rival blocs, we might see a world of independent players who cooperate on some issues and compete on others, because opportunities like this don't remain open indefinitely. China is observing closely, looking for any indication that India might move closer to America. Russia is doing the same, concerned about losing their energy customer. Both would love to see this US-India reconciliation fail. That's why Trump's timing matters. Appointing an ambassador now, just weeks before major regional summits, where India will be seated with China and Russia, is a clear signal that America is back in the game. But this time, they're playing by different rules. Rules where India is treated as an equal, not a subordinate. So when people ask if Trump is genuinely softening his stance toward India, the answer is yes. But not because he desires to, but because he is compelled to, because India has reached a point where pressure no longer works, where threats push them away instead of bringing them closer, where America needs India more than India needs America. That's the new reality. And it changes everything about how these two nations will interact with each other going forward. India isn't requesting permission anymore, they're establishing the terms. And for the first time, America is listening. The question now is whether both sides can transform this tactical shift into a strategic partnership, one where India maintains its independence while America gets the ally it needs to balance China. If they can accomplish that, it reshapes the entire balance of power in Asia. If they cannot, we are back to confrontation, but this time with India holding even more advantages. That's the story behind Trump's milder tone. It's not about friendship, it's about power. And right now, India possesses more of it than anyone expected.